Good evening and happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I want to welcome you back to another episode of Just Getting Started here this January. We've got another wonderful guest, Jonathan, who put together a game called Call of Cthulhu. As you can see here in the background of this stream, we've changed things up here and we're really excited to have Jonathan on tonight to talk about Call of Cthulhu. We think that all of our feline loving friends will really enjoy this game. Jonathan just shared with me before the stream that they've reached funding, so that's amazing, but we encourage you to jump on board supporting this project if you're intrigued, or just ask a few questions about game development, what the process has been like for him. So without further ado, I'll just let Jonathan introduce himself. Thanks for joining us tonight, Jonathan.
Hi, thank you for having me. So I'm John Enkel. I developed this game. I'm just kind of splashing into the market. This is my first game. The first game I've designed that I've gone this far with. So yeah, I'm just an avid gamer. I've always, like a lot of gamers, especially more board gamers, I think. A lot of us kind of have our own ideas, what like little things that would be cool to add to games and to maybe make them better or more personalized. And I kind of just took that and just started designing games on the side, and kind of been doing that for a handful of years now. And I've always wanted to make a really light game, because it seems counterintuitive, but it's, at least for me, it's much harder to make a stripped down light game that's minimalistic in rules and working and moving pieces than it is to make a game that has a ton of rules, and you got dudes on a map and all this stuff. It's almost easy to make a game like that, a complicated one. To make like a very light one that works well, I've always found it's super hard. So when I came up with this idea, I kind of just wanted to run with it.
That's awesome. I'm super excited to talk with you more about that. And so let's start from the beginning. What got you interested in games in general? Do you have a favorite, or what was your first game?
Ooh, I mean, I've always been into games. I'm a huge athlete, so I've always played, physical games, sports and stuff. But I've pretty much just as long. I've always, in sports, I always am thinking strategy. I coach a hockey team now, and it's right up my alley because I think strategy and that style. So I think I think I was just a natural board gamer, like a strategy gamer.
Mm-hmm.
The first games that I can remember playing are, I mean, honestly, on Atari for video games. But the big ones, I mean, I'd have to say Bubble Bobble, Marble Madness on Nintendo. Going way back, that might date me, but um, yeah, I like those. And then for like tabletop games, I've always liked Axis and Allies. It's always been a big one of mine. I still like it to this day. I'm not a snob about it. Some board gamers, they kind of, oh, that's old and it's not cool anymore. Hey, I still love it. But yeah, those games, and of course, the Monopolies and other games. I don't really play those as much anymore, but I appreciate that they got me interested and moved me forward in the hobby. Yeah, now I play pretty much everything. I mean, for video games, I'm a huge Heroes of the Storm guy. I play that quite often. Call of Duty. Play what's that? The Imposter one on.
Among Us.
Among Us, yeah. I play that
Mm-hmm.
when we can get our with our group together.
Right.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I love them.
That's so awesome, and I really love to hear that. There's a lot of things to touch on there, but you talked about you being an athlete, and enjoying hockey, being a hockey coach, and just the overlap. Video games, board games. Now you have a card game. We have a card game here in front of us that you've developed, and I definitely heard the strategy ringing true in a lot of those games you said. But the fact remains is that you have a lot of interests, and they overlap with a lot of people. Someone might look at this and be like, "Oh, cats. That's so girly," or "That's so this." All the stereotypes. But here's a hockey coach making a cat card game. So I think that's awesome for the community to know that it doesn't matter who you are. This game can be fun. Games can be exciting, and hockey guys can love cats too. So that's awesome. So before we get into the game specifics, what about your process as like a game developer? You said you've been kind of toying with the game and development a little bit. So why don't you talk us through like what got you started in that, and kind of some past projects that you've either been somewhat successful or maybe something that you learned along the way.
As far as developing games, I usually start with, like, oftentimes it'll happen when I'm playing a game and I see one little aspect about the game that I feel like I could key in on and almost kind of, so I look for inspiration in other games oftentimes. And I think that was actually the problem for me with a lot of the games that I tried to design prior to Call of Cthulhu, where I would find these aspects and I tried to just make a salad of all these different aspects of other games, and then when I kind of put it all together, it was just like there's almost too much going on here. It would be either really hard for people to learn it, or oftentimes board gamers will have a collection of a lot of games, and they'll play a game once every couple months, and I didn't want to make a game that you had to relearn how to play every your head's back in the rule book every couple months. So that's what kind of pushed me away from those. I learned as I was designing more and more that I wanted to strip the game down, and if I was to go forward with it, it's a lot easier to try to get people interested in a simple game than it is a super complex one. Your market just shrinks the more complex you make it. So that's what kind of led me to this one. Another game that I played a lot growing up was Magic the Gathering. So I've always liked that two-player duel aspect. I played chess a lot growing up. So I like that aspect of those games where you're trying to read your opponent as much as you are trying to read what's on the table. So I tried to incorporate that into this game. This game is based off a rock paper scissors kind of concept. I just took it a little bit further, and the cat theme. I initially started out, I was gonna theme it as if you were two wizards, and instead of cats, you were battling over different elements. But I did kind of want to make a game, like I was talking about the market. I wanted to make a game that wouldn't scare off non-gamers. To us gamers, hearing about wizards and elements might be second nature to us, but to a lot of people, you start talking orcs and goblins or whatever, and people are like, I don't want anything to do with that. So I wanted, similar to what what's her name, Elizabeth Hargraves did with Wingspan, where she put a lighter theme on it, and it brought a lot of people into the game that wouldn't ever play. Not that game's super complex, but it is a lot heavier than a game that a lot of people might have played without that theme. So yeah, my goal with this was trying to get that meeting point for gamers and non-gamers, because this game, I played this with my gaming friends, and we have a blast with it. It turns into intense like chess matches, and then I play it with my wife, or a couple non-gamers play it. And play testing, I had my mother-in-law play it against my wife, and neither of them are gamers, and they were just kind of throwing toys down and trying to, they were accidentally winning cats, but they had a blast with it. So
that's awesome.
That's the big appeal of this for me, is that you can get, it's for honestly for gamers and non-gamers alike.
That's awesome, and I love that you are reaching out to non-gamers, and it's almost a little sad that we say it like that, because in a conversation with our guest last stream, I was saying that we're all gamers. we just don't all call everyone gamers. You know, my mom, for instance, plays Candy Crush on her iPad sometimes. You know, at night to unwind because she enjoys the strategy or the mental stimulation. But it's like you said, it's not too hard. You don't have to dive into a complex game of Settlers of Catan or Magic the Gathering. Like, you don't have a lot of rules to learn. It's fairly simple, but it still is engaging. So I love that you're reaching out to people who wouldn't necessarily call themselves gamers, but providing them an avenue to play. I think that's great. So let's dive into your game a little bit more. How did it start? You mentioned it a little bit with the magic, the elemental aspect, but what really triggered your idea, and what was it like working on your project?
It was a lot of fun. The evolution from the elements to the cats. I mean, that kind of. I honestly don't even remember where that came from. I think it just kind of popped in my head one day that, like, oh, it could work thematically where, players kind of have their hand of cards are the toys, and if you want to think of it from a more intense gamer's perspective as far as theme goes, oh, you're playing these toys to try to attract the cats in the middle of the table to come play with you because those are their favorite toys that are depicted on the cards. So yeah, I honestly don't even remember how that transition happened, but I mean, it might have been something even as simple as people love cats sell. It could get this game, it could attract people's attention easier that way.
Absolutely.
And I didn't mind putting my cats in the game, so it was
Awesome.
nice to get their cute faces out there. And I've since I offered a pledge level for backers to pledge a higher amount to get their cats in the game as well. So the artwork that you'll see in the video, it will change because I'm gonna, once the campaign ends, I'm gonna collect all the backers who did that pledge level, and I'm gonna incorporate their cats. They'll replace those stock, those generic cats that are pictured in the game here. It'll be the same style, so it's not going to look drastically different, but it'll have their the picture of their cat with the cat's name, and then in the rule book it'll say, this is Bill Smith's cat from Nebraska or whatever, so players will know whose cat belongs to who. But yeah, I as far as the game, I don't remember where that idea really came from exactly, but it was a blast working on. It was really fun playtesting it, because to see people who, like you said, I don't say non-gamers in like a pejorative.
Absolutely.
I know some gamers
Right.
do, but they just watching people who don't traditionally, would consider themselves gamers play it, and actually just like after the first round, their kind of wall goes down and they just start honestly having fun with the game, and it's something you created. It's really like rewarding to see that. So
That's awesome. One more question before we dive into the gameplay. Are you a one-man studio, or do you have anyone who kind of helped you along the way with putting this together?
this was, I mean, the art, I used a professional artist for that, and then play testing. A lot of people helped me out with that, and I had a lot of encouragement. But I mean, all the nuts and bolts, other than the art, were turned by me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So like the strategy and the putting together the game concepts were kind of yours, and then you
Yeah,
had
all
assistance
that. Yeah.
with the exterior, the details. That's awesome. And it's great to show, some of these big game studios, some people may think, oh, I can't do a game because these AAA studios have hundreds of employees. Well, here's a Kickstarter that has, again, received funding and is effectively done by Jonathan here, who we have on stream. So that's awesome. So why don't we jump into some of the gameplay here? We have Jonathan put together a video for us, and we're going to play it in the background. I'll try not to pause it too much, but I'll kind of, as they're setting up here, just kind of talk through some of the details. So I'll get the video rolling here. me just a moment to do that. I'll turn down the volume in the chat. I want to have the chat hear you all having fun. Oh, maybe play. There we go. Chat, you can let me know if the volume balance needs improvement. But here we've got the cards set up. So, Jonathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about these? What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in the middle here. What are those cards?
So those are the cats that the players will be battling over. They're trying to attract the most cats to their side. It is a set collection game, so you'll notice there's red, yellow, white, blue. There's also black cats in the game, the background. And the more light colors that you get, the more points. It's like multipliers. So one yellow cat is only worth so much, and then if you get for each one beyond that yellow, it'll multiply. So it behooves you to get more light colors in the game. And yeah, so you just set up the 5 cats in the middle, and you're seeing that's my wife, the red player. I'm the blue player. She's selecting which of the cat toys to place down based on it might be hard to see, but where you see the numbers on the sides of the cat, that shows in what order you have to place the toys in order to attract them. So where you see numbers, it doesn't matter. So you have slot 1 through 4, like she has 1, 2, 3, slot 1, 2, 3 down, and she's trying to figure out, she just moved 3 to 4, and then put, so now, so you put those down to try to attract the cats, and now we're going to compare cards, because this is where the rock, paper, scissors aspect comes into play. Some toys will knock some toys out, and she took my scratching post out there with her catnip, so now that slot 1 is empty for me, so that negates any chance that I win any cat that needs something in slot 1. And then you compare each of them as you go. Like my yarn took out her mouse there. And then after you compare, then you see, like right here, I'm winning that yellow cat because it has yarn in slot 3 and catnip in slot 4. Which is what I had. And she was going for a different cat, but she put the toys in the wrong slot. She messed up.
So each of like I see the ragdoll cat has I'm not sure what the objects are, but it's in slots 2 and 4. So that's the red one on the bottom for chat watching.
Yeah, it's a laser pointer in slot 2 and a mouse in slot 4. Yep.
Okay, a laser pointer in 2 and a mouse in 4. So that means, do you have to declare which slots you're going for then?
Nope, that's all part of the guessing game. So as you're playing, you're trying to figure out which cat your opponent's going for. So you're kind of playing offense and defense at the same time, where you're trying to win cats that might naturally knock other toys for other cats out. Because let's say, for instance, catnip takes out scratching post. If there's a cat that needs catnip in slot 1 and another cat that needs scratching post in slot 1, you'll go for the cat with catnip because that'll naturally take out the other player's scratching post when you reveal. So you're looking for like little things in that. It's almost like a little puzzle. And with each cat that gets removed and a new one gets placed, it like completely changes that puzzle. So you're looking at all 5 cats and the toys that are required there to see, some of these will naturally counter others, and then other times you might be able to set your board up so you could win 2 cats in a round. So yeah, it's like this, it's kind of like a changing puzzle. The cat's on the board, but also you have to try to figure out what your opponent's going for. With the go ahead.
So in some regards, it's I'm gonna pause it so people can see in the chat kind of what's going on here. So we see the cards revealed here, and on your side, on the left screen left here, we have a feather, yarn, and a scratching post. So one question I'm gonna back up first is, you said the blue and the red cards. So each player has a deck. Is that correct? And you shuffle the decks, and you're drawing, say, 4 cards each round. Is that correct?
No, each player has matching hands. So other than the backings of the players' hands, one of them is blue and silver, the other one's red and gold. But they're identical hands face-wise. So you have 6 different toys. Each player has the same 6 toys, and you choose 4 of the 6 to play that round. Any 4.
Okay.
Depending on the cats on the board.
So there are 3 categories of cards then. There's player 1's cards, which are the 6 toys. There are player 2 cards, which are the 6 toys. And then there's a deck of cat cards. Is that correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
the cat cards are essentially the objectives, if you want to think of it that way. Yeah.
And then, as noted a little bit earlier, each of the cats has a condition, if you will, in which you have to meet. And so the strategy is to arrange your 4 cards. Is it 4 cards out of your hand?
Yep.
In the correct way to win one of your cats. And so that's what you mean by simultaneous attack and defense, because you want to predict, what card they might be going for, while trying to go for the card that would advantage you the most.
Yep.
Perfect.
And in this game, there was actually a round where my wife didn't even try to win a cat. She just put her hand down just completely to block me.
I didn't get anything because you screwed up my white card.
You were going for that one?
Yeah, I just went for something straightforward.
Okay.
But yeah, and you see, as you can see, there's 2 white cats on the board. So I do like games with catch-up. They call them catch-up mechanisms. Like if somebody's losing, sometimes a game will make like a little rule that allows them a better chance to get back into the game and to, in contention for winning. But if those get too much love, it can think for the person who got in first, place and through good strategy, and then it's just this rule just loses them the game because it's like a charity thing or whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of a fine line, but I figured with the set collection here, so I won the yellow cat earlier in this game. There are no yellow cats on the board, but if there was one on the board, it's kind of a catch-up mechanic because now my wife would know, like, oh, he might want that yellow cat because that's going to be worth more points for him because he already has 1 yellow cat. So now it might be harder for me to get that second yellow cat. Whereas she has no cats currently. I don't know what the heck she's going for. So I'm just trying to, I'm trying to kind of shoot in the dark here to figure out what she's going for. Which I think she does make a pretty good move here. I think she's about to win the white cat at the bottom of the screen, which is actually one of our cats, so she gets all excited.
That's awesome.
I did that on
And the
purpose.
white and black cats are they're worth more because I don't know if you noticed, but the red, blue, and yellow cats, they only have 2 toys on them to win, whereas the white and black ones, they have 3. So it's much harder to win the white and black ones, as they're easier to defend against. There's more slots to counter the other player trying to get it. So and that was actually that one that replaced it was our other cat. We call him Fatty, but his name is Chester.
That's awesome. We've got a cool cat in the chat, so thanks for that, chat. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in. Let me drop the Kickstarter link here so you all can check that out. If I go to the right link here. So if you want to support Call of Cthulhu, head to that Kickstarter link and check out their backer packages. I did want to let everyone know that we will be contributing a small backing to this project as a guest on our stream, and if there are any subs during this stream, we'll be donating $1 from every sub to that backing pledged. And it's also very exciting because, again, they have reached their backing, their funding status, so they will be funded, and and they'll go from there.
I
One
appreciate that support.
Absolutely. One other note is to check out our website to see the other projects we have going on as well, because there are a lot of awesome projects out there. This is one of many. You can never have too many games. Back onto Call of Cthulhu. So, you were telling me a story about the name one time. How did you come up with Call of Cthulhu?
I just naturally like to do plays on words and concepts and stuff. And my wife is of Armenian descent. She doesn't speak Armenian, but her mother still makes. Her mother doesn't either, but
We'll see what happens.
I think they were second generation Armenian. Her
Okay.
grandfather immigrated here.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm not going to.
so they do they do some traditional Armenian cooking and stuff around the holidays and stuff. So the heritage is still pretty close, like nearby. Um, and I just once I transitioned to the cat theme,
Okay.
I just randomly. I'm also into linguistics and stuff, so
Mhm.
I looked up how to say cat in Armenian, and I was looking at a few different um, languages, but my wife's heritage brought me to look how it's said in Armenian, and that brought me to Katu. And then when I saw Katu, I was like, oh, I know Call of Cthulhu is, the
Mhm.
Cthulhu mythos has
Yeah.
quite a following, and I was like, it immediately that play on that came to mind. I was like, oh, that works. Like, so it's like a little bit of us in the title and something
Yeah.
other people can be like, oh yeah, I like that.
That's awesome.
I was just crossing my fingers that I wasn't stepping on any trademark or infringement or anything, but I guess that's still to be determined, maybe. But
My guess is you're safe, but I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my word.
yeah, I think it is spelled differently enough,
Mhm.
so I think it's all set. But
Yeah, and the premise is different, right? So you have a
yeah,
card game versus the mythos of it all, and so
yeah, it did cross my mind to put like 8 tails coming off of the cat in
mhm.
the icon, but I was like, I don't want to go too far that way.
Right.
I think the name's enough.
Maybe in the future, once you've confirmed your safe distance from their realm.
Yeah.
I, a couple questions I had is, have you thought about having like a playing mat for this? Is that part of the backer? I didn't dive into it quite far enough to see if that was part of the backer. But will there be like a play mat for this ever?
Possibly in the future. I have an idea for an expansion, which I may actually incorporate as a stretch goal if we meet our first one, because it wouldn't be a huge expansion, and I don't want to convolute the game too much through adding too much content, because I would like to keep it to a light game that, because like I said, my goal here was to allow gamers to
Hmm.
enjoy a game enough while allowing uh, not yet heavy gamers to maybe come into the hobby. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I want to do it too much. As far as a game mat or other things, like I notice other Kickstarters have things like hats or T-shirts, trinkets, stuff like that that they'll throw in as add-ons or stretch goals. Being a one-man operation, I didn't want to stretch myself too far and then create more things that might delay the project, because I know that's almost commonplace on Kickstarter. Um, and actually, this project is getting delayed a little bit because um, part of my noobness didn't ha- had me not realizing that the factory I'm going through to produce this game
Hmm.
in China is off the entire month of February due to Chinese New Year.
Hmm.
Um, so that put a little hiccup in things, and they also informed me that COVID is kind of backing up some production, some shipping right now.
Yeah.
That's slowing things down, as people probably know through their Amazon packages coming in 2 weeks instead of 2 days. But
Yeah.
um, So unfortunately, that's the growing pains.
So I think I want to back up here a little bit. I want to take a look at this spread because you said there was a tiebreaker. So what happened? Would you play the same cards, or what happened here?
Here, no, we had different cards. None of them interacted. I believe on this one we each won a cat.
Okay.
I believe on that play. I think she won one and I won one.
Yep.
I think I won that black cat that was at the bottom, and she took the white one, which was actually really good for her because, like I said, it's a set collection game, and she already had one white cat. So if you get sets of black or white cats, those points skyrocket with sets of those because they are much harder to obtain. And there's only 4 white cats and 4 black cats in the game, where there's 8 blue, 8 red, and 8 yellow. So they're more rare and much harder to get. So it does add that element of kind of like a Hail Mary for a player if they're, if the other player has, because the game, so the game ends when the first player collects their 7th cat. But it doesn't necessarily mean that player wins the game.
Right.
Because if I have 7 red, blue, and yellow cats, a mixture of those, and you have 3 white cats, you're gonna beat me in points by quite a bit.
Can you send a cat for adoption?
That may be in the expansion. I'm not sure.
Fair enough. So that answers the question. Like, you have to play with the cats that you collect. So you could make it for a really long game if you are dead set on going for so many cats, or you're going to give your opponent the advantage because they will have collected 7 cats while you're sitting on, say, 2, trying to stock up on a collection that maybe wasn't ideal for you.
No, just
Yeah.
like if you have.
So there's definitely still multiple layers. Like, there's the rock paper scissors element of the cat toys, which again each player has 6 in their hand that they can choose from, and that's one layer of strategy. And then the collection of the cats is another.
Yep. Yeah, so it's like it's simple concepts, but when you layer them, it adds a nice level of complexity that's enough to keep people who play more complex games interested without driving away new gamers, but simple enough to where new gamers aren't scared away by it or confused by it. So yeah. I will say that I was kind of going for the cheaper, the easier cats to win this game because I was trying to get to 7, and it almost bit me in the butt because I did win this game, but the final score was 20-17.
Oh, 3
and
points.
my wife only had 3 cats. I had 7, so and I pulled ahead of the very last play. So she was beating me with half the amount of cats. So it is neat like that, where you can go for kind of more quality than quantity. But it is harder to get that, yeah.
It looks like the video is having some technical difficulties here.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, the video did stop.
Okay.
Yeah, it was something with my phone. It recorded the audio all the way through. It was about a half-hour recording. The audio recorded all the way through, but the video stopped at like the 17-minute mark. I have no idea why that happened. But I figured it was enough gameplay.
Absolutely.
Where you get the feel of it, since it is a more simple game. It's the tactics are always there, but getting a feel for the game and learning how to play it, it really, like I say in my Kickstarter and advertisements, you honestly can learn how to play this game in probably a minute, even if you don't play a lot of games. And that was another thing I liked about this game. Like, chess itself is not a super complex game as far as rules go, but if you're playing against an experienced gamer, it can be extremely difficult to win. Um, this game kind of gives you that chess feel, that like duel, that 1v1 duel feel, but you don't have to remember how 12 different pieces move, the rules behind them, So um, I'm really happy with how the game came out in that respect.
Absolutely. No, it definitely looks like fun, and it looks like, one of those. It looks like a great convention game. You go to the hotel back
Yep.
with whoever you came with, and just pick up a game of Call of Cthulhu because you don't want to play an in-depth game of Magic because maybe you had a Magic tournament that day or something, or it's just a
Yeah.
fun, relaxing, like you said, a light game. So I definitely enjoy it. Now, I am curious. I've got another game-related question, card-related question here. So, it's a collection game. You're collecting the different cards. How many different breeds of cats do you have in the game?
So when I was doing this art, I looked up purebred cats. That's for the most part, that's what I use. So there's 32 different cat breeds in the game, and that's what makes up the main deck of cards, the tarot size cards.
Mm-hmm.
There's 32 different breeds, but like I said, those will be replaced with personalized cats. From the backers on Kickstarter can choose that pledge level. And so these breeds will be replaced by individual cats. The Maine Coon cat might be replaced by Mittens or whatever.
Oh, okay. So the cat's name.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I was wondering how you're gonna do that. I was gonna like Bob's Bangle.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool too. But no, that's awesome. Give them, stick with the names, and that is really cool, and in a really neat way. So, um, yeah.
And
No,
you mentioned Magic, I did too. I did find it kind of neat that, like I said, I had my, mother-in-law and wife and cousins play tested who, you know, might have never picked up a card game before in their life, and they enjoyed it. When in the play testing, I actually took it to a Friday Night Magic tournament of all hardcore card gamers, and I had people almost fighting to play it. They were having fun with it, and they had a blast with it. So it was cool to see that range of interest in the hobby, kind of being satiated, the interests. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
that definitely is awesome, and I'm super excited. So I'm gonna open it up for questions from the chat. If anyone in chat has any questions, and we've got a couple more before you go, and we'll definitely ask if you have any other feedback you want to give. But my first question is, I'm going to jump back into the game development process a little bit, that conversation, and so, if you had to look back on your process, how would you say you set up the steps? What do you think the various steps of game development are?
I think it was pretty straightforward. I came up with the concept of the game. Um, I have watched a lot of other videos in my game designing. I'll watch, like Dice Tower and other things in the board gaming hobby, popular ones, where they'll go over like game design and help people with try to streamline their thoughts. And one thing I did find very helpful as a designer is on one of the videos, and I can't remember to give credit, but somebody had said, don't worry about a theme. Make a game, come up with the concept, and don't worry about a theme. Because they were talking about people who are, maybe big into Star Wars, and they're like, they're thinking Star Wars first, and then they make a game to fit Star Wars, and then that forces you to, contact Disney, who owns Star Wars now, and try to get the IP to that. And if it's hard or you can't get it, now you have a game that's Star Wars that you have to make something else, and it's not gonna mesh well. So that was one of the big pointers that really stuck out to me, and that led me to creating a game that I could change almost seamlessly from wizards and elements to cats, and it still worked. So that was one big thing with the design process. But yeah, basically concept, and then I used Game Crafter. My game was very the art. I mean, not that this art is like super complex. I am more of a minimalist, so I didn't want it to get too crazy just out of personal preference. Um, and also with too much art, it can get confusing sometimes, or people with vision problems or whatever. It might be hard to see stuff. So wanted to keep that in mind as well. Um, but I did the art myself, which was very basic. And I just went to Game Crafter and created a prototype, uh, just to give people something better than cardboard, paper glued on cardboard or whatever that I could make at my house. And then I play tested the heck out of it. Play testing went pretty well with the game. I had to tweak a few things, and then once I got the play testing done and got to a place where I felt like nobody had issues with the gameplay, there were no hitches or anything, then that's when I started to research successful and unsuccessful Kickstarter campaigns, and got into that. I got in touch with my artist through Fiverr, which is something I had never even heard about before getting into this, but it's an amazing resource. So yeah, I got in touch with my artist through that. He did all the artwork. We had some going back and forth, where I had him tweak a few things to my liking, and once I got that, I jumped into Kickstarter, and yeah, that was basically my process for this. It was tricky because I am a one-man operation, so the design kind of came natural to me. Making the prototype was pretty fun, but it was a learning experience.
Absolutely.
The artwork I wouldn't have been able to do. This was done digitally, so I'm not very good with that. So that I had to streamline out, and the biggest thing for me was like social media, kind of getting the word out there, and that's the most important thing with a Kickstarter, honestly. I would almost say it's better to have more energy put in the advertisement than the actual product. That's my experience. I'm not advocating for putting crappy products out there,
right.
but that was a big that was like a big learning experience, is just getting the word out there. That's incredibly tough, trying to navigate through all this stuff, all these different platforms. I don't even have a Twitter account, and I know that's dumb on my part. I'll have to change that going forward, but it's
small steps, right?
Yeah.
I think I loved hearing you talk about the process and the different moving pieces in each of those processes. And I think to summarize it for anyone who may be jumping on late here is you talked about concepting and testing before going live on Kickstarter, and then marketing from after Kickstarter, marketing before, maybe even before Kickstarter or after. Well, you had said concept, test, take it to the market, and then advertise.
And in the concept, you want to focus on who are you trying to target with this game. That's a big part of the concept, and will lead into the design ultimately. That's a point that should probably be made.
Oh, I suppose I missed design. Design would probably be after playtest, right? Like concept and then test it before you do the heavy lifting of the design. Maybe have some abstract designs for the playtest, but do designing. Would you say to do designing before or after playtest?
Design as in like art or anything like that?
Yeah, like
art.
Pieces.
You can do that later. You can theme it later, because most of my playtesting was actually done with the element wizard theme I was talking about earlier. That was
That's cool. We had a question from chat. They asked, "Do you have a cat?" So they mentioned earlier that a couple of the cards are from the cats. So how many of the cards are from your cats, and what kinds do you have?
All right, so in the game, on my Kickstarter, I think there's a blown up picture of 2 of our cats on there. But we have 3 cats in the game. One of them has since passed. That was the first pet that I had. It was the gray cat in the game. She was a core rat. So in the version as it stands is she's the core rat, the little gray one.
Okay.
And then the domestic short hair and the Maine Coon cat are our 2 current cats in the game. So those in the version that you see on the video, only 3 of those cats are that we put in there for a purpose. All the rest were kind of art that I obtained elsewhere. So
that's cool. And are your 3 of your cats are going to remain in the game, correct? As you add the cat owners, or do you plan?
Yeah, my wife would kill me if I took those cats out of the game.
That's a really cool way to honor your pets, right there, though. That's so cool. Awesome. Well, I'll leave it up for a couple minutes here still for chat to ask any more questions about game development or the game in general. But thank you so much, Jonathan, for your time tonight. I appreciate having you on. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your game or about the gaming community at large?
No, I think I said most about my game. I did have a lot of people asking me about like follow-up games because we also have 2 dogs, and that's ideas that are swirling in my head. I actually did come up with a concept for a game, and then a game called Quirky Circuits dropped, and it was almost exactly like the game I designed, and I was like, they stole my idea. Not that they did, it was just the timing.
Yeah.
And it was an extremely popular game, so it was like, oh man, that could have been, you know. But oh well, that happens. I do have another concept for a party game, which I know is really popular on Kickstarter, and it's a game that everybody can enjoy. Not sure if you ever heard of the game of Spyfall, but it was inspired by that game.
Okay.
It's a game that I love. It makes for really a lot of fun in a party environment. And it's extremely portable. I take it on the road trips when we have away games. My hockey team, when we have away games, I take that on the bus because each player only has to hold on to 1 card. So we take that on the bus and have a ton of fun with that. Loosens us up before the game and has us feeling good. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I do have that in the works. I mean, of course, that's only going to come once this game is all, once the last backer gets it in their hands. I'm not thinking about moving forward with that one. But yeah, that'll be coming down the stretch. I think for me going forward, I have to think of. I realize I have to think of a company name, and set all that stuff up. So now that I have a successfully funded Kickstarter campaign under my belt.
That's awesome. Well, we're honored to have you here. We're honored to share your story of success, and we're hopeful to continue to hear from you and maybe see you at one of our conventions in the future. So again, we've got Jonathan here of Call of Cthulhu, and we are both signing off for the night. And you all have a great evening, and feel free to support the Kickstarter. Check out the activities on our website upcoming up. We've got a stream tomorrow night and a stream Sunday night. Thanks for the Echo Notice chat. I had both of my mics going apparently the entire time. But well, thanks everyone for stopping in tonight, and you have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we'll see you back tomorrow night.
Right, thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Absolutely, Jonathan. Thank you.